Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. There are a few mistakes that I am seeing a lot of players make on their general loadouts when it comes to what they're trying to pair certain weapons with, whether they're trying to go for a secondary and alternative to a rifle or an LMG that's meant for close range, or maybe a sniper support weapon to pair with their signal or one of their one-shot snipers to complement the close and mid-range. And today I wanted to focus on the SMG category, the main meta SMGs, and point out where you might be picking the wrong weapon or using the wrong weapon in certain situations. So we are starting here first on true game data. As always, huge shout out to Tony for putting in the work, getting us these details, making it so easy to understand what's right and what's wrong. Now, 5 weapons here, it's the max we can look at, and I've got 4 of the best SMGs in the game, and I think for the most part everyone agrees these are the 4 best SMGs. The Lockman sub, the PDSW 528 or the P90, the Vel 46 or the MP7, and then the Vaznev 9K. And I wanted to throw on the FTAC Siege here as well, since I see a lot of players using that as well. And these are just the stock weapons, right? So keep that in mind. If you add things on, you know, sprint to fires will change, ADS speeds will change. But if we look at all the weapons and go down to our TTK chart here, we've got 250 health in combination shots, which is the most accurate way to look at this. I see a lot of players look at this with just chest shots, and as you can see, the chart changes based on if it's combination shots or not, because let's be honest, you're never hitting 100% of your shots to the chest here or 100% of your shots to the head here. You're hitting some chest, some head, some extremity. You never know, right? So when we go ahead and we look at this TTK chart, we get some very interesting values, and honestly I tried to zoom in and that made no difference. We'll just go back to this. The first standout here is honestly the FTAC Siege. I had no idea was this good in the mid-range. From 20 meters and beyond, essentially it's got the best TTK out of all of these. However, you might look at that initially and say, okay, well that means I should use the FTAC Siege as sniper support. I would not jump to that conclusion right away, because if we scroll down to some of the base stats here, you can also see the FTAC Siege has the worst velocity by a significant margin compared to any of these SMGs. So while the FTAC Siege is good for TTK in the mid-range, I feel like that's especially highlighted in multiplayer, not as much with Warzone, where, you know, it's gonna struggle a little bit more because the further range is in that worse velocity. But for what it's worth, the FTAC Siege in the mid-range is surprisingly good if you're landing your shots consistently, whereas in the close range, it's actually still got a slower TTK than all of the SMGs here. I've seen a lot of talk about, oh man, the FTAC Siege is crazy overpowered in the close range. It's very good. Like, you know, in those first 5 meters, it's right there, but beyond that, you know, it takes until 9 meters and beyond for it to be that much closer to any of the other subs. So initially, the FTAC Siege is not one that stands out to me that's wildly beneficial either in the close range or in the mid range. So if you're looking for the best, I would probably avoid that for the time being. So that limits us to our 4 best meta SMGs, right? And there's 2 answers here for 2 different types of engagements. Obviously, you're not realistically using SMGs outside of like 35 meters or so. Beyond that, their velocities are not that good. You're better off using a Chimera or an AK-74U for the mid-range, or even just a straight up rifle at that point. But in the mid-range here for sniper support and whatnot, or if you find yourself oftentimes using SMGs in 20 to 30 meter fights, you might say, okay, well, I see everyone using the Lockman sub and the Vaznev, so I'll just use those. But as our graph shows here, outside of about 14 meters, which if you were to go in game and ping, that's not really all that far. That's just beyond the first dummy in the shooting range. The Vaznev and the Lockman sub do not have great TTKs. It's kind of close between 18 and 24 meters, but these drop-offs are way more significant than the Vel and the P90. So if we briefly take those off the list and just look at these 2, you can see there really isn't a wrong answer here. These 2 are flipping back and forth constantly. Initially, the Vel is a little bit better, but then the P90 is a little bit better, then the Vel's back and better again. So for mid-range, for sniper support, you've got 2 clear choices here for SMG loadouts. It's the Vel and it is the P90 straight up. But on the contrary, for close range, with the exception of, you know, 8 to about 14 meters, which isn't anything crazy, these are not nearly as good as the Vaznev and the MP5. So if we then take away the Vel and the P90 and look simply at the Lockman sub and the Vaznev, again, there really isn't a wrong answer here, but when you start to mix them back and forth, I want the Vel for close range and I want the Vaznev for mid-range and sniper support, that's when you start to make a huge mistake of really just straight up choosing the wrong weapon and using it for all the wrong types of engagements. But close range here, post nerf with the WAZNEV, it's still right there with the MP5 in all honesty. The Lockman sub has a bit more of a steep drop off initially, so to me, I feel like the WAZNEV is the better choice of the two, but that of course is only factoring in TTK. If you look at just the general stats here, the reload time for the WAZNEV is a little bit slower than the Lockman sub. Just behind the face cam there, it's a little bit slower. The movement speed's roughly the same, the velocity is going to be roughly the same. ADS speed on the WAZNEV, a little bit slower than the Lockman sub. Sprint to fire is pretty much the same here. Sprint speed's pretty much the same. So there are a few differences here and there, but overall, these are the clear two best choices for, you know, the close range fights exclusively. So those are what you'd want to pair with the ARs, the LMGs as your close range alternative. Whereas if you are straight up sniping or you want a weapon for the mid range, the VEL and the P90 are the two best choices. So truly right now in this meta, I think a major mistake that a lot of people are making as well is considering one SMG is the end all be all. There is no such thing in this meta right now. There are best options for certain engagements here, and even then the best options have, you know, direct alternatives in every single situation as well. So don't make the mistake of just choosing one gun all out and using that for every single complementary, you know, setup, close range and sniper support. Make sure you're diversifying your loadouts and really optimizing what is the best here. Let's actually jump to the menu and break down the best setups for these best SMGs as well. So with the WAZNEV, obviously we want to make this as aggressive as possible, considering we're just going to be using this for close range gunfights. So 45 round mag is pretty standard for any extended mag. That's going to work just fine for all squad sizes. True tack rear grip though, better ADS and sprint to fire with tunes to match that as well. Atrazat stock is going to be better for sprint speed and aim walking speed, so again, all mobility benefits there. Olay laser, better ADS and sprint to fire, more mobility benefits. Then also the cast one barrel is going to give you a slightly better damage range, so it'll make that first damage drop off happen a little bit later, which is nice to see. It's not going to make an insane difference in game, but it's something there nonetheless. So WAZNEV for those super close range fights and for that aggressive SMG choice is a great option. Maybe you like the slightly better mobility and whatnot of the MP5, especially with this build on here. It can be very, very fast. This is a great alternative, and there again really is no wrong answer between these two. The wrong answer is trying to use the VEL or the P90 for those direct super close-up fights. So here, 40 round extended mag, TCG 10 rear grip for the better control, but I also tune for the better mobility here, so it's kind of like a 3-in-1 attachment, if you will. Mirror 56 stock, it's going to be better control, better sprint speed. We tune for the better mobility there, so again, just making it even more aggressive. 7mm laser, of course, for the better ADS and sprint to fire as well. Then the Falcon barrel, better movement speed, better ADS speed. So overall, this thing is becoming even faster, even more agile, and going to be even more lethal in those close range gunfights. Now the P90, keep in mind, you could use it close range, but it's not going to be the most effective option. Mid range is where this is going to shine. So this setup, really, because it's got the 50 round mag by default, is mainly meant for speed, so you can still use this as a great rotation weapon. And personally, I feel like this is a solid sniper support choice. For the mid-range fights where you're going to notice a little bit more recoil because the targets are going to be a little bit smaller, I go for the KT85. Just make this gun as easy to use as possible. It's a little bit added recoil control. The rail here, the light rail, is going to be straight up for better movement speed. We tuned to enhance that even more, so even more aggressive. 7mm laser here yet again, same deal as always. Q900 rear grip, better ADS and sprint to fire with tunes to match. And then behind the face cam, we've got the Tacom comb, also enhances the ADS and sprint to fire, and we tune to enhance that even more as well. So this thing still flies, it fries, especially in that mid-range, but there are better options for close range. And then the MP7, honestly, I build in a very similar way. For the mid-range there, I do use the KT85 to make this as easy as possible, tuning for a little bit better mobility, but also some better control there. 50 round extended mag because we don't have the luxury of having that here like we do on the P90. 7mm laser. The soldier rear grip is going to be for better ADS and sprint to fire. Then also the RXT stock adds in better sprint speed and ADS speed. I tune for some stability there since in the mid range that is a factor, and some better ADS speed as well. So all the setups here are aggressive. They're going to have great mobility. They're going to be snappy. They're going to be quick. Certain ones thrive though, especially up close. Certain ones thrive in the mid range. Make sure you've got the right weapon paired with the right primary here. Just to really optimize your loadouts. Don't make the mistake of limiting yourself because you think one weapon is the end-all be-all answer. That being said, that is going to wrap things up for this one though. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications. That way you can always guarantee we're up to date with absolutely everything going on in the world of Call of Duty. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.